Coming into center, Choro Oya, and arriving with the self intact here, Choro Otana Ki, through the ribs, Tohoya Shokoya, Cha Ai Ni Ichioya. Breathing in here through the tissues, Choro Otana I Chohoya. Pausing here, waiting and allowing for the presence of the self to begin to emanate here, to take up space here through the lungs, through the tissues, and allowing this to continue to build, dropping deeper into the belly, continuing to feel this in through the tissues, in through the skin, in through the lining. Doro otana kai chushui chukoya takoya. These mucosa membranes, Dara otana kai chushu oya daki. In and around the belly, Choro otana ki chohoya. The intestines, Dara otana ki chushu oya. Dara o shuna I chahoya. Choro otana ki. Chokoya da I chokoya, and clearing through the lower ranges of the field. Tara oya shoshne I shokoya, and all of the ranges where waste exits the body. Choro otona I, feeling this through the intestines. Chokoya choshu I. And this sensation of release that feels so challenging here. Choro otana kai, shusho oya. This holding in or holding on to cho oya, shusho oya. Relating to a fear or distrust. Tatotana ko shushni I chukoya. In the natural order or natural process. It's almost as if once the body, once the energy field receives or allows something in, it becomes part of the system, and then the release of the waste or the release of whatever it is that should be then eliminated through the field. There's almost an error in processing here. Chokoya the ki chana oya the kai. This idea that we must fully utilize everything that we take in, that there must be no waste. Tatano o shoshi. This somehow, I feel this in the gut. Chokoya the haya. Actually, in the stomach, in the bladder. Chara otano this sense again of misunderstanding and misprocessing in the energy. Of course, because of everything we have been told and programmed to accept, that naturally there are byproducts of anything that we ingest, of anything that we allow in. Chahoya the ki, chushno oya the ki. Feeling this now through the mind, tatana o shoshi, this reallocation, tara o hochono oya takaya shoshi, through goods and services, of course, but more importantly, the way we process energies, emotions, in the body, Dana o kono o shashishini I, and the beliefs that are programmatically tied to this. Jara o tana kai shashi. So coming into the base of the right side of the mind here, we feel this almost as a burden, yes, but there's an energy here that is almost relieved to have been found out. Chakono o shashishni I, as if I've had to be up in here processing, holding all this. It almost gives a sense of this imposter syndrome. Cha-ono koya, cha-sha-i, cha-hoya. I don't want to be found out. I'm trying to hide all of this, process all of this, but there's nowhere else for all of this to go, and I need to release this. Chokoya the ki, chokoya the hana, chisha-i. The fear and the panic of having fully filled something up and seeing that more is still coming. Where will I put all of this? Feeling the overflow or the overburden, the overwhelm. Chokoya chashani, which then causes, of course, this leakage in the field. Chara otanaki. So it's interesting because the leakage, then, if we can look at this more clearly, is really about then the need to accept, understand, allow, grieve the koshashana ichiya koya tahaya. That energy comes in, energy is processed, energy changes, and something is allowed to be released. And even that word allow, chokoya, this natural excretion, chara otara koya chashai, expelling of underutilized or non-utilized elements, chara otana kai chashai, and that this is allowed. Again, let's look at this word, atatana koya chashai koshai, because in some ways it feels like this word is predicated on having permission. Charakaya tukushai chakoya charotakai chashai chakoya takai shashai tataro o shashishni chakoya dakai chashoya daki. So to facilitate chokoya tatai no koshai chokoya, to enable tara o chashai chokoya, the release to engender tara o tana kai chashoya the kai, to create, to generate, to bring forth release. Chokoya takai, joshoya takai. And through this we witness the seed or the root of allowance that has been bound within the field, the Hoya Shashi, particularly through the left ranges, through the intestines, through the colon specifically. A lot of fear and anxiety here in the lower belly. Okay, so coming back here to the base of the lungs, the tissues, the alveolus, totono koya chashai, and let's look here at the exchange rate. Chokoya chashai, choyatakai chashai, feeling this through the sides, the koshai of the abdomen, choro otanaki, chokayatano koya. Let's look at these abdominal muscles, choro otaki, And particularly what is right around the hips here, Chana Otana Ki Chohoya, and this banding across the belly, Chohoya, and through the front of the field here, down through the pubic range, Chano Oya Taki Chohoya Takai. This sensitivity, this overwhelm, this grief, Chohoya Takai Chishane I Chohoya, this flight from transparency, and feeling this into the base of the brain here on the right side. So this complex integration, this complex allowance, the kosha I chohoya, that was really limiting. We could say controlling, but we see it more as limiting. Chara atatana koya. And when we become comfortable or familiar to this range of limitation, tato koya chashai, this is when we start to see that acceptance, chara otana ki, which is really then the programming, chara otana kaya, taking root. The koya chashani I, so this endowment, tana otana ki, feeling that through the right side of the base of the brain here. Tata koya shashi ki chasha oya takaya chasha I. Chara totana koya chasha I, chakoya chahoya. So needing to differentiate here whether we are endowed with something or we have received an endowment, tara otana ki, and as we say the latter, chokono o shoshei, there is something through this mother range, through the base of the brain that comes in here. So tatoro toya chashai chokoya takoya. So this endowment of allowance, chahoya chashana chokoya cha ano koya chara chashai tahai. And where this was, I'm seeing it as reaped upon the field. So very interesting, because that's a bit of an improper use. Takasha I chakaya chahoya takai chashai shootana I, and yet this is the way that I'm seeing it, that something is gathered and laid upon the field. Tara oshana I chakoya. Interesting, because it looks like okay, so these endowments, it's really this action of something being reaped or taken from your own field and then laid upon you as if it is a gift, or I'm seeing it as if it's something that is laid over your shoulders, almost like an honorary sash, tatakoshai, or some type of fabric, chokoya chashai, and yet I can feel the burden, the overwhelm from this, and this comes then directly into the belly, chokoya chashana chokoya takai chashai chara otana ki. So ingesting this heaviness, chokoya chana oya takai chashai, and yet there is this sense that we should be grateful to have been given this, and yet it was pulled directly from our own field, that we do not need this to be applied to us or laid upon us. It is already within us, but yet when it is extracted and then laid upon us, it is a burden, even though in its natural state, let's say, having already been internal, chokota ai, it is a gift or a value, chashano oyata ki, or worth, chara otai I, that inherent worth that seems to be extracted and then reapplied, chashano oyata ki, almost as a sheathing, which tatataro koya chashane I also gives me the impression that then it can be stripped out of the field. Tara otana ki chohoya chashane I. So this is very interesting because I feel like in many ways this is what has been done to the energy fields, and yet we see examples of this. I don't know specifically, but I feel that this is how, for example, crops are modified. This sort of biological alteration. Well, I see it as altercation though, because it's not natural. It's not the natural order. It's not what would be wanted by the affected energy. So something is definitely being taken. The field is being violated. But it's being done in a way, or done in a range, where we're not actually seeing or feeling that sense of violation. There's a feeling of blindness here. I can't see clearly what's happening. I just can sense that something reaches in and then shows me, let's say, this gift I have inside of me, and yet there's a sense that I can't reveal that to myself, or I can't reveal that for myself. These very shadowy elements here. And these are through the left range of the field. And yet they also feel very familiar, almost as if they might be within the consciousness. So this could even be that mental chatter, or the, let's say, critical voice we use. There is an element to this energy that seems like at some point it was perhaps purposeful or even more peaceful. But something obviously, either there was a mutation and a change in how this energy operates. I'm hearing overwhelm, so it could be a range where something mutated as a form of self-protection. It does, again, a sense of this being very, very familiar. So a piece of me, or a part of me, or a voice within me, that I've become so accustomed to, it feels like me. And so let's bring the light here and come in closer here to see exactly what this is. And as we do so, we can see it's an energy that itself has been harvested, and it's almost like it had nowhere to go. It was seeking refuge, hiding out, fearing it would be misunderstood. And really the only reason it would feel that way is because at some point it was misunderstood. Hunted even. So this feels like very, call it kind of witchy energies here. Very edgy though as well. Harsh. It's also the kind of energy that when cornered, it really, all we see left is this victimization, this victimized range. So it's a very kind of nasty energy. But this is, let's say, whatever has been extracted. Going back to this idea of waste, leftovers, byproducts. It's what has been discarded. And seen as wasteful. Useless. This feels like an element of the feminine, not the feminine range, the feminine power, the feminine awakening, the ability for energies to self-actualize and evolve, this seed or this spark within, So again, as we say seed, we see that portion that was expelled, the through the lower left range of the field, wastefulness, uselessness, harboring these emotions within, and where it feels like the field then has been at war with itself through the base of the right side of the head and the lower left range in the belly here. So this warring between, we could even say, the feminine and masculine ranges. This misunderstanding, this misinterpretation. This Excalibur, chara otakai, chisha e chakaya chatatana koya. Tatatai tatakosha e. Tara o shishani e chatakai, chisha e chakoya. To oshana e shishi e shakoya. This sense of something piercing the field, drawing something from the field. Tara osha e chana e chakoya. Extracting something from the field. And yet this is not a natural, let's say, expulsion of something. The field was pierced or cut open, in some way opened up. Or an opening was created here to extract something in a way or in a place that was not naturally releasing. This feels to be very specifically under the left rib here. Something perhaps even to do with the spleen, although this doesn't seem to be the exact location. There almost seems to be a bit of a swelling here. Actually feeling this into the stomach here. So this connection between the spleen and the stomach. The spleen almost feels to be harboring something here. Feeling that almost wrapping around the left side into the lower back here. So coming in here, choro ota ai chishai chokoya shishai takai chishai chisha aya takaya chisho oya takai chishai chahaya takai chishai. So dana anakicha takoya, coming here into the tissues, chahoya takashai, into the blood vessels, chahoya dakicha oya, any sort of fatty deposits here. Chohoya daki chanokoya. Feeling this very much into the lower back. Also the shoulders. Chohoya dakaya, the back side of the shoulders here. Chara atani shiatokoya. Splenic thought. Chara atana ki chohoya daki. Jato koya chisha I chokoya da ki chokoya da kai chisha I no koya cha ata taye chino koya. Coming in to the right side of the field along the spine here, deep into these muscles of the right shoulder. Cho otana ki chokoya. Just allowing the energies to begin to clear this intuitive fog, this cognitive fog, chohoya, daro ochana ki chohoya, and perhaps even what feels like the link between intuition and cognition, charo otana ki, daro ochushari I chayatoyana I, where these ranges, this ability has been separated from one another. Chara atana ki chasha I, these processes, chara ata ki, where there's a sense that these should almost be intertwined. Tara ano koya chasha I chohoya. This merging here, chohoya, feeling this through the lower ribs on both sides of the field and through the lower back, chohoya chasha I. So a recognition here and a soothing through the field. Where we have felt at odds with our intuition and almost unable to integrate intuition into reality. Feeling almost now we can see this process of having to extract it, carry it over somewhere else, and apply it or plug it in. And yet in that process, something is lost. So coming to the left side of the rib cage here, this sensitivity, and yet what feels to be an irritation, that because it is so sensitive, it gets irritated so easily, and an irritation is really a sort of protective layer or a protective response, rather than the energy being allowed to flow freely back and forth, this free exchange. So where cognition didn't include intuition, it was held outside of it somehow. And I'm seeing it looks like that's the part that's been hidden. Severed integration. Severed integration. So allowing this recombination. This cleansing and distillation, and releasing of this fog in the cognitive functioning. So repairing this light body DNA, through the emerald waters, Jana Otana Kai, Chara Ichana Kai, Chasha Oya. Coming into these blue and green tones here, just along the spine on the left side, midway through the lower back. And feels also where the feminine could not allow itself to see or accept its masculine range as being one body, or let's say similar. There was some sort of reaction to the masculine energy here, which caused this eruption or ejection. So continuing to bring the light here, looking at what appears to be, I want to call them polyps, but they're more oval shaped and almost having pointed ends here. Almost like very long, thin leaves. Feeling this through the left side of the heart. This sense of danger, emanating through the field. So this insertion of some type, feeling this, yes, through the heart, but really it feels inserted through the spine, into the spine at various levels. And yes, looking like a very flattened range here. So compressed, non-viable energy. These, again, what look like green leaves. Tara otana ki chusha oya takai chusha oya ana o chusha e kosha e. And let's come into the spine here, the intervertebral discs. Tara ochana e chukoya, coming in through the base of the spine here, and here allowing for the expansion, and noticing as the energy comes into the field, to assist. We're using this word allowance because it's not so much giving permission. We are instructing, and within that instruction is the allowance. So very interesting how, again, what's coming up here is the exchange rate in the field. It seems, yes, that energy exchange has been limited in terms of what has been taken into the field or received into the field. And it seems to revolve around this word allowance, and the structure of that. Because allowing is related to inherent knowing, this intuitive response to stimulus in the biology. And this is all through the masculine range. I can feel this through the right side of the back here, all the way up the spine into the base of the brain. So allowing for the expansion, this cushioning through the spine, reasserting your presence here, this inherent knowing, allowance, which is not something you earn. It is something you know and facilitate. It's almost as if a part of that process was removed. Either you could receive, but you weren't the one who was directing what was happening. Chara atana ki chohoya, the ki chohoya, that ownership of the process was somehow severed. Chara atana ki choshoya, the ki chohoya, chaaya. So interesting that we talk about earning an allowance. Tara atano oshoshi ichaya. How that has been programmed into us. Chara atana ki chohoya. From a very young age, chahoya dakai chashai. You do not earn allowance, you facilitate allowance. Shuro otana ki chahoya dakai, shuro otana ki chahoya. It is something that is already within you. Shuro otana ki chahoya. And you are in control of the inner workings of that. You operate that entire system. Chara atana ki chohoya chaaya. And again, exchange rate. It's the way in which the field exchanges energies. Chara atana kai chashoya chashai. And an inherent part of the mucous membranes here, cho otana I chasha oya chasha I shakoya shasha I, trapping and expelling cha otana ki chohoya, lira I chara aitana ki chohoya, collecting and expelling cha ochana I chiatokoya. What is foreign, what is unhelpful, cha otana ki chohoya, within the ranges of your permission. Chara atana oya chashai. Full allowance through the field, all the way up and down the spine. Full ownership. Cha ona kai chasho oya taki cha oya. Dara I, dara I. And allowing the light to continue to focus here. The lower back, choro otaki, the tailbone, choonokoya, choshoya, continuing to restructure, softening, allowing for the release of these grievances, chara ashokoya, choshani I, choshoya atakaya, choshani. Through foreign matter, chara atana oshoshi I, chokoya, cha oyata I, clearing through the hips. Chara I, chana otakai, chasha I. And so it is.